tell you what. Now he lost his camp job, Stephen Kane did, but you know, and I didn't remember a lot of I suppressed the memories of 6 years old and 10 years old. But I was also, by the time I was 8 years old, smoking cigarettes. You know, by 12, I'm drinking booze and I'm starting to smoke weed, and I'm doing all kinds. Well, I was self-medicating. Man, and that's what, you know, that was trauma. I experienced so much trauma. I'm so glad for The Sound of Freedom, the movie that is bringing light to this child trafficking and the abuse of children. No adult should be doing this to a child. And you know, struggles, man. Now remember, I've gone through 40 years of it's 40 years of probation, but I call it 40 years of purification. 40 years of purification, and 40 years of building my faith in my covenant, in my salvation, my covenant with God. Now, quiet time between 10 years old, and I'm doing the drugs and everything, and basically I'm out on my own by the time I'm 16 years old. Dad crashes with alcoholism, blah, 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 blah. Basically, I was taking care of myself by the time I was 13. Still going to school and stuff, still had a roof over our head, but pretty much really no guidance and stuff. We were just kind of, my brother was 15 at the time, I'm 13 and stuff. So, you know, so by the time, you know, I was working, by the time, you know, at 13 I had a job, and 14, and by the time I was 15 I was almost working full time. By the time I was 16 I was working full time, and I never went back for my 12th year in high school, which I was 17. I would have been 17 in high school in my 12th year. But what happens is I got to leave my house at 16. I'm living with my stepbrother Rick. I got my brother Rick, and I got my stepbrother Rick, and I just call him my brother Rick, but it's easier to define them by saying stepbrother. And we all ended up moving to a house in Horsham, and in that house it was me, Rick, Paul, Joe Tell, which was Sherry's boyfriend, Sherry and her 2 kids, and we rented this house. And you know, it was a party. It wasn't a drug house. It was a party house. We were the misfits, you know, and we were misfits that came together. Rick was a keyboard player, still is, musician, and we were part of a band at the time and stuff. So we had certain parties and stuff, but then there was times that nothing was going on, and one of those times where nothing was going on at 17 years old. 17 is a very interesting number. We won't get into that due to time, and this is running long. 17 years old, I'm sitting in the back side of the living room. Right straight forward is the stairway to go up to the upstairs. Now we had 12-foot ceilings in that, 10 to 12-foot ceilings in that house. Now to the side was the kitchen and the hallway that went down to Sherry's room and the kids' room. Okay, so that's significant. You got a little entryway here that goes into the kitchen, and then down that hallway, here's the living room, there's the stairs. So I'm depressed, man. My parents are living in a barn. I'm making $120 a week, and I'm giving 80 of it to my dad to make sure that they have money to be able to survive on, and I'm completely depressed. I'm sitting there, it's in the dark, I'm crying, it's at night, and suddenly, boom, light flashes open, and there's an angel. Took up every bit of that 10, 12 foot. And I suppose we're having a full out conversation. I only remember one thing out of this, but it must have been enough where I was talking, because Sherry and Joe Tell came out of her room and looked around the corner there. Remember, this is where the kitchen is in her hallway. So now they're looking through the doorway there into the living room, looking at me, and I hear them say, "Who's he talking to?" And when they said that, the angel of the Lord disappeared, and there was still like some emulating light, because it was almost pitch dark before the angel, but after that I could still see them. And I walked through to the staircase, and I looked at them and said, Jesus said everything's gonna be all right. And as I'm walking up the stairs, I hear him going, Jesus? What's he talking about, Jesus? What does he mean, Jesus? What's he talking about? And I went up and I slept the best sleep I ever slept. It was a good sleep. It was a good sleep. And so, you know, I took that. Now, I wasn't born again yet. I had not received Jesus Christ as the Lord of my Savior. You know, I obviously I've had a lot of times with him. And later on, when I was losing the church, angel of the Lord right here, he said to me, I'm sitting in the chair, I know I'm losing the church. It's just 5-6 years ago. And I hear the voice of the angel, and he says, remember, I am the angel of the Lord from when you were 17. My name is Gabriel. Remember what I said. He was right there. I didn't see him, but he was right there by my ear. And I remember what he said. Jesus says everything's gonna be all right. That's cool. So here comes my born again experience, and there's a lot of experiences after this, but due to time, I'm not going to go into those. Maybe if you guys would like to have another video to pick up from 21 to the rest of the different miracles and things that I've experienced, just put it in comments, and I'll be happy to do another video to the personal things. Otherwise, we'll still be doing the righteousness quotes on righteousness, because righteousness is very important. Righteousness is the kingdom, so we need to understand being a righteous man. In other words, a man that thinks like Jesus, has the character like as Jesus, and acts like Jesus. That's righteousness, and it's very important. Okay, so now I'm 21. I have now moved to New Jersey, North Jersey. My dad had got a job there he got reinstated into the Episcopal Church, and he actually was a house, or they lived in the dorm as house parents, dorm parents, my mother and father. That's where my sister was going to school, an all-girls school. My grandfather had put her there, you know, and got a job, went through so much more things, but I want to get to this. Now my dad loses another position. He's still deep in alcoholism. Alcoholism destroys, man. Alcoholism destroys. Get off the alcohol, get off the drugs, live life in the Spirit of God. Live life in the Spirit of God. Okay, so here it is. It's a Friday. It's either Thursday or Friday. One of the Chester cops, Chester, New Jersey cops, pulls up. He says, I'm going to be picking up your dad for fraudulent checks. And he gave me all the information I needed. And I needed $600 to be able to bail him out. They went and picked him up. They took him to jail. So now I'm going to, dude, I'm just 21 years old, man. You know, it's July. I turned 21 in May. I'm just 21 years old. All this stuff is happening again. All the stuff with my parents is happening again. And going to the restaurant owner, I lived at the restaurant where I worked. And going to the restaurant owner and going to the chef and trying to explain to them what's going on, and that I need to borrow $600 for, what do you call it, bail bond, for a bail bond to bail my dad out of jail. I was done. I was done. That was it. I did get my dad out of jail. And so that weekend, you know, I worked during the days on Saturdays and Sundays. I worked lunches into the afternoons on Saturdays, and I did brunch and stuff into the afternoons on Sundays, and I was off Sunday evening and Monday. And so there was the 17th of July, and it was a Sunday. Got off of work. Now I'm done. I'm done with life. I'm just done with it all. I'm done. And so that evening, I had decided I'm done. I'm checking out. I'm taking my life. I'm committing suicide. Planned it. That's what I'm doing. Right? So I go down. I have a couple drinks, not to get drunk, just enough for courage. A couple drinks for courage. And so I go up into the room. Now, from the 60s, from the time of the 60s, I always had a little black and white television in my room. Well, from that time, little black, and nonetheless, I had a little Hitachi black and white TV in this little makeshift apartment at the restaurant. And having that, and I do it to this day. I walk into the room, the first thing I do is I turn on the TV. I still do it. Have it. So as I'm walking up there, I know how I'm going to do the suicide. Okay? I know how I'm going to do it. I think to myself, well, I have to do this right. You know, there's protocol. You got to do things by protocol. So I have to write a note. So I'm formulating in my head what the note is. I'm going to write this note of suicide. So I walk in. I walk up the stairs. And then there's 2 rooms. So I walk up the stairs. I go past the one room which has a refrigerator. There's no stove or anything. There's a hot plate. And the bathroom was over here. And then I walk into the second room where the bed was, and it's kind of like set up like what I have now. So I go in there, I walk in, I turn on I'm thinking I gotta write this note. I turn on the TV and flash, man, just this bright flash. As the flash happened out of the TV, I flew backwards onto my back with my feet up in the air.